Yo, what up? This is episode 1 of the. I don't actually have a name for this podcast yet, so I guess we'll go ahead and introduce everyone first. I'm IU. I set the time for this podcast, and I'm just late every time for my own appointment. So we've agreed that I will be paying 1,000 gold late fee to everyone in the call, which means I'm down 4,000 gold to start. But yeah, I've been playing Lost Ark since last year on the Korean server and the Russian server. My main is a bard, but I also play a Deathblade, which really helps me get the full molding experience when I play. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I've gotten up to 1,500 on my main in Korea, and right now in NA I'm just Valtan waiting room like everyone else. So I guess we can go in order. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Jay?
Sure. So everyone just calls me Jay. I've been playing Lost Ark on and off for about a year and a half. I only really started playing more when Sorceress came out in Korea. I pretty much lived off Asian MMOs, so Lost Ark was kind of an interesting thing for me. I have a 1520 Sorceress in Korea and a very high level artist that my friend plays on. And I'm currently playing Lancemaster and Scrapper in NA.
And then we can hear from our resident bear streamer.
Yeah, that's me, Bear Master. I'm Shandamon or Shandamon. I play a Shadow Hunter, also known as a Cockroach. I've been playing the game for over a year in Russia.
All right, who wants to go next? I guess we'll just go with the pillar of this community, Tulce.
Hey guys, it's the pillar. This meme actually needs to die, by the way. It's such a stupid meme, but I've been playing Lost Ark since I think it was May or June, basically after Alpha, and I decided to dip my toes in RU. And when that happened, I was giga lonely, and I said, you know what, let's make a guild and have the description as English speaking, and then, yeah, here we are today. I main a gunslinger. I boosted her to basically 1,500 in RU. We did a bunch of like P1 to P4 Apple towards the end before we all quit and waited for any release. Other than that, I just play a whole bunch of classes, and I aspire to be a Omega bus driver in NA.
Hi, my name's Jin. I started off by playing in KR since the Hyper Express event in July last year, but because I moved back and forth from States and Korea, I couldn't really play much. I do have like a 1430 Scouter and a 1445 Bard there. And then back in the States, I really wanted to play the game, so I started RU and got my Glavier to 1480. Right now in NA, I'm playing Artillerist as a main, but I also have like a Bard, a Surge Blade, and some other characters that I enjoy playing.
Cool. So what you need to know is we're all in the same guild, and this is probably one of the sweatiest collections of people that you can find playing right now. So we're all on NA East regular server, and everyone here has played the game for quite a while. So I guess you could say we're all veterans, and hopefully we'll be able to have some interesting conversations for you guys. So let's just jump right into the news. The biggest thing is that the May patch notes are out. I don't know if we can call them patch notes because they're not really what I usually expect from patch notes, but anyway, we know what's coming, so we can briefly go over that and then talk about what we think about the individual topics. So in May, just overall, we've got Valtan coming out, normal and hard. We got Deskaluda, so the new Guardian. We've got Hammer Bro, Destroyer, a new event island, it looks like. So I guess we can just go ahead and jump right into it. Quality of life. So May has a bunch of quality of life changes that we've been looking forward to. And I think some of it is including the front and back attack indicators, the in-game daily checker. So I don't know if you guys know what Bynnark is, but it's a homework list that lets you check all the boxes for what you need to do on all your characters every day. And this is now going to be in-game, which is going to help a lot of people so that you don't have to go and use a third-party website or whatever, as well as UI updates. I'm not really sure 100% what that is, but improved party finder and party invites, loot dismantling, etc., etc. So what QoL are you guys looking forward to out of this bunch, I guess? For me personally, I'm the front and back indicators. We've played for so long without them. Even in Korea, I remember playing Korea for the longest time without the indicators. And after a while, you kind of get a sense for where the head and the back is, even without the indicators. But it's going to be pretty nice to have. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think having an in-game UI that keeps track of dailies is arguably one of the most convenient things for me. I tend to play a lot of characters overall, and keeping track of what I did on every single character can get a little bit hard, especially if you're playing for a long, long time every day. That, along with the auction house features, mainly not having to close down UIs and research things if you mess up, and having to scroll and type, we're being able to type search for everything is super, super nice. I'm not like too excited for the head and back attack stuff, but it's good and convenient for everyone, so I think it's great to have anyways.
Oh, so what you're talking about is normally right now you have to, if you want to search for an engraving, you have to click and drag and find it in the drop down, right? But after the update, you'll be able to type, is what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was pretty huge. I remember when it first came out. What about you, Shanda? What are you looking forward to?
I'm be honest, I don't know most of the QoL they said in this patch, so I don't actually know a lot of it, but I only know the head and back attacks and the checklist. Those are the only ones I know.
I have a question for everyone, I guess. I know that we're all using Bynnark right now because we all play a bunch of characters, / like I said, we're all really sweaty and play the game really intensely. But do you find yourself... I remember when this feature first came out in Korea, I still ended up using Bynnark because the in-game tracker has a lot of stuff that it can't track. So the in-game tracker really only tracks stuff like Chaos Dungeon, as well as Guardians and Raids. But what do you guys use on Bynnark that you won't be able to track in the game?
Mine is basically the boss rush ticket stuff. And also, I think it's so expanding on that, I kind of want to be able to gold mark my characters. I think that's like the biggest thing for me. Having the 6 gold limit in the back of my head, and then just playing the game, and then saying, hey, I want to do this content, but I can't do it, because if I do, I'll just accidentally gold lock my character, and I'll probably lose around like 4k gold. Like, that's probably the worst feeling for me. So I don't know if the checklist actually fixes that, or it comes later, because I think it came later, right, on KR?
Yeah, it came later. So what Tulce is talking about is, if you right now, so currently how the game works is that if you have more than 6 characters, you won't be able to earn gold on your 7th character and onwards. And how the game determines which characters that you earn gold on and which characters that you can't earn gold on is the order in which you do content on them. So as soon as you earn gold on one character, that character is locked in for the week as a character that is able to earn gold. So your first 6 characters that earn gold, just in just the first 6 of whatever you do, those are locked in as your 6 gold locked characters, and then your 7th and onward don't earn gold. And so right now, so I actually got screwed by this last week where I power passed a Deadeye as my 7th character, and I've actually never had more than 6 characters in Lost Ark on both Korea and Russia. So I completely forgot about the gold lock system, and I had one of my 1370 bards who hadn't done any content yet, and I accidentally did Sea Dungeon, or the Phaeton Abyssal Dungeon, on my Deadeye, and I earned like 100 gold. And so my Deadeye became one of my gold characters, and I lost out on like 3k gold on my Bard because I couldn't do Argos Phase 1. Well, I could do it, but I wouldn't get any gold, and I couldn't do Orha Hard. So in Korea, how they got around this problem, or else it forces you to play in a certain way where you have to always have that in the back of your head, like Tulce said, and you have to do your first 6 characters in that order, or else you might screw yourself later. So they fixed it in Korea by, as soon as you log in after a weekly reset, they pop up a window and you click 6 characters that you want to gold lock, and you just hit confirm, and then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week. Like, you just pick right away. So I don't think we're getting that, right? Because in Korea we got that after, and they didn't say anything about it. So
yeah, that's one of the things. But other than that, it's really just my boss rush tickets, because I have a counter of that in my Bynnark, and it tells me, and it reminds me of the amount of depression that I have piling up on my cube tickets.
Yes.
Everyone loves cube here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I have on my Bynnark what triports my characters have. So when legendary rapport spawns, I don't have to think about which character has triports where. So I that's not going to be in game. And I also have stuff like rapport, like which characters rapport which NPCs, but I guess those aren't really that important. And there's other stuff that the in-game tracker won't track, like if you've exchanged pirate coin mats for the week or if you've exchanged guild mats for the week. So what are you guys keeping on your Bynnark? Like, Jin, what are you keeping on your Bynnark? And or are you just going to drop Bynnark entirely?
I'm probably going to keep my Bynnark. I don't think I'll rely too much on the in-game anyway, because of all the things that you guys mentioned that the in-game tracker won't be tracking. I actually haven't tried the KR server ever since this patch happened, so I don't know what's there or what's not. I don't even know if like the weeklies are kept track of or the guild quests. Do they keep track of those? Like, because I keep track of those in my Bynnark.
So they keep track of daily and weekly unas, but not the guild ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's pretty basic. They basically just show you how many of that content you've done for the day or the week, and then there's just a little bar that fills up when you have rest, and that's it. So anything that's non-combat related pretty much is not tracked. So you still have to either track it yourself or use Bynnark for that.
I think another thing that I'm gonna use Bynnark for is like the one-time trackers. Like for example, like Anguish Tile Exchange. You know, like I don't think I'll be able to keep track of that in my head if I have to buy out on a bunch of characters. So
yeah, or like what characters have done South Vern or something like that.
Yeah, or Tower.
Yeah, so I probably end up using both, but. So there's some other QoL, right? So there's updated loot dismantling, and I guess we can just talk over each one briefly for people who, because honestly they don't explain what the QoL is. And so that's what I was saying earlier I don't know if I can call these patch notes, because in Korea, the patch notes, they show each individual system and how it works and explain everything, but I don't know if this is it or if this is just a preview and they're gonna release something else showing how this actually works. But anyway, we can just talk about it. So the updated loot dismantling basically makes it so that right now that you can use an auto dismantle feature, but it basically sucks because you can't customize it in a way that you would want to. But when this feature rolls in, this QoL rolls in, you'll be able to auto dismantle bad stats like domination, expertise, and I don't remember what the other one's called. So I'm definitely gonna use that at some point, but I don't know if I'll use it right away, because I think even relic accessories that when they come out with Valtan, even with bad stats, will probably sell. So what do you guys think about updated loot dismantling? Are you gonna use it right away, or?
Like, as you said, I don't think I'll use it right away if I'm getting relic accessories, because there's gonna be that random sell that shouldn't be happening. But as prices calm down, like I'm definitely going to be using it, and I'm like, this is probably the best QoL that I'm looking forward to, the auto dismantle, because it's a stress, like sorting through your stuff and having to like look at endurance, domination, or whatever. Not going to use it for relic stuff in the beginning, but probably just going to use it ever since like second week or something.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of cells that like happen. So if we take Glavier release, for example, regardless of some of the stats, sometimes even if you got like a good engraving combo, it would have sold. Like if you got Pinnacle and Grudge, for example, it just sells even if it's not spec. Even though like a lot of us veterans, we know that you kind of need spec to play your Glavier effectively, right? So I kind of speculate the same thing will happen with the relic releases that come with the Valtan release soon. So yeah, I was probably going to chill with that. But I do see like we'll get to a point where maybe everyone is going to start chilling on accessories, and they'll all kind of know that like, hey, this accessory, even though it's like good expertise necklace, for example, and it has the engravings you want for 100 gold, maybe you won't do it because there might be enough accessories out there with good stats that don't cost like an arm and a leg to buy. And when we get to that point, then yeah, I'll just have auto dismantle on all the time.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what I'm thinking of doing. It's funny because a veteran probably would never buy a piece with bad stats on it, but when I matchmake, for example, not to flame anyone, but you always see people with rainbow stats, so they just prioritize the engravings and not their stats. And I think that as the player base gets more experienced, they'll realize how important stats are, and then the value of auto loot dismantle will probably go up. There's some other QoL coming, like being able to randomly summon favorited mounts. And actually, there's a really cool convenience about this, because it doesn't really matter now, but you know how when you go into certain areas like Tortoik, you can't use your regular mount, so you have to use the Ladybug mount. And later on, when you go into Rowan, which is the open world PvP continent, there's a special warhorse that is only usable in Rowan. You can't use your normal mount. So the way this the reason they added this feature is because you can actually favorite all of these special mounts along with your main normal mount. And when you hit the randomly summon mount button, it will automatically choose the only mount eligible. So for example, if you have the Ladybug and your regular mount favorited and you go to Tortoik, when you hit random, it will always pick the Ladybug because you can't ride your normal mount. So what this lets you do is, instead of having 3 different mounts on your bar or having to like change your mount every time you go there, you can just have the one button on your bar with everything favorited, and that way you don't have to switch. So it doesn't really matter now because you're not going back to Tortoik every day, but later on when Rowan comes out, I think it's a good QoL that they'll have in advance. And other than that, there's new hairstyles. I don't know if any of us are super big on presets, but I'm pretty excited for hairstyles. Are you guys gonna change your character's look when they come out?
Yeah, 100%. There are better stylists than I am for sure. That have already made amazing presets on the Korean Inven website, and even in NA there are currently a lot of really cool people making some really cool presets. So I think with the new stuff, at least people will start looking a lot more different than a lot of the characters we've already seen in the game currently up to now.
True. And so I don't know how familiar you guys are with what QoL is still to come, but in Korea there's a quality of life they added so that you can queue for Chaos Dungeon or Guardians or basically any content from anywhere. So if you didn't know, right now you can queue for a lot of the content by hitting the Party Finder hotkey, which is colon, whatever the key next to L is. And in Korea you can hit Alt Q and basically queue for Chaos and anything from anywhere you are. So that QoL is missing, and I guess it's coming later, as well as the ability to add pets into your preset. So if you're switching between 2 different builds that use two different stats, you can also switch your pet automatically. What QoL, if any, do you know of that you're still looking forward to, or if there's none, then we'll just move on?
So if we can talk about speculations, I'll talk about a few. So the QoL, the backend head attack indicator came with a couple other QoLs in KR in December, and for 2 specific classes, Surge Blades and Battle Masters, they made it visible, like your Surge stacks more visible. They made the BM skill that has a time that you have to time, right? Okay, I don't know the name for this, so somebody help me out.
Interkai combustion.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like when the cooldown for that is near, it turns red around the Battle Master. So like those things I think are really cool QoLs to look forward to if you play one of those classes. But it's a speculation, so we might not get it. Yeah, and the cool stickers that KR has, but we don't, might also come if they follow the same schedule as the KR update. So that's my speculation.
Yeah, so what Jin is saying is that so all of the features that we're getting in this patch are kind of bundled together in the same patch in Korea. So we actually don't know how they're importing the changes from Korea to NA, because we have kind of a mix and match. We have some of this from this patch and some of this from this patch, but looking at May in particular, a lot of these changes are in the same patch in one bundle as it was released in Korea. And so some of the things that Jen is talking about is in that patch. So we can kind of predict, are we getting these in the same patch? And I guess it's kind of a bigger topic. Maybe Jay will know a little bit more about this because you actually work in the industry, but how do you think they're bringing over the changes? You think they're going to bring them one by one, or basically just release the patches in order with some tweaks?
It varies a little bit, like company to company. It's safe to assume that Smilegate is probably sending large bundles of packages to Amazon to then just publish out when they want to. A lot of the stuff is just like flicking a switch to turn it on, more or less. Like we might already have a lot of the updates available, in our files somewhere, and it's just up to Amazon to choose when or not they want to either turn it off or on. If the patch comes in as they say it's going to come in May, it's safe to assume that it's definitely possible that we will get the other stuff along with it as either a surprise or not. We don't know. This isn't really the patch notes, it's more like a preview. We can assume that the roadmap for the future and eventually the patch notes will be coming out later on this month.
Yeah, like I said, I guess it's more of a preview and we don't actually know what's coming out, so we'll have to see. But yeah, so anyway, lots of QoL coming out. I think overall it's very good, and I know the front and back attack indicators, a lot of people have been asking for that or looking forward to that, so it's good that they're adding those, and there's still a lot more QoL to look forward to. Other than that, there's Neria's wardrobe, so casual wear. What are your thoughts on casual wear? Because I know some people really love it. For example, I really like having casual wear and different outfits in MMOs, and I know some people are gonna be like in the other party where they're like, oh, my immersion, I don't like it. Or so what do you guys think about casual wear?
Well, if we're talking immersion, there's already Makoko seats here, Makoko outfits and stuff like that. So like, I don't really know why they're complaining about immersion. But I like the costumes because I heard they're dyeable, right? Are they dyeable?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Then I think that's what's gonna make people stand out. Because every other costume that we have currently in the game, everyone just looks the same.
Yeah, it's like Omen comes out and suddenly Punika's filled with a bunch of edgelords. And then the Arc Pass comes out and then everyone looks like they're going to a ball. Right? So we'll see what people's creativity does with the Neria's wardrobe.
Yeah, even the player that plays a character that you can't see them in their outfit 90% of the time says it's a good change. So yeah, I guess many people are excited.
Yeah, I'm
Jin's
excited.
talking about the Shadow Hunter player here, a resident Shadow Hunter enjoyer.
Yeah, why do you even buy skins when you transform and you can't see them?
I just sometimes I'm in town, I just get to appreciate it there, Look, I don't know, man. You got me, man. You got me.
Yeah, so here's something I was curious about. So I forgot how the Omen worked because I literally didn't care even 0.1 grams about the Omen skins, but I remember the Alar skin as well as the Arc Pass skin. So they had it available for both blue crystals and royal crystals. And so royal crystals is basically cash only, and blue crystals is buyable. You can just consider it as gold, right? So do you think that for the new Neria's wardrobe, they're gonna release it both ways like before? Or so is this gonna be a standard thing going forward, or how do you think they're gonna release the outfit? Because in Korea, everything is cash only. So all the skins that are only available for royal crystals, which means that if you want to buy a skin from the cash shop, the name is the cash shop, so you have to use cash. And so if you aren't a swiper, like if you don't spend real money in this game, you can buy it from the auction house. So what people will do is they'll use their own cash, buy the skin, and then they'll list it on the auction house for gold. So anyone can have access to it. But if you don't spend your real money, you kind of have to do it through the auction house through a third party, so to speak. And so what Amazon has done so far is they've made it available for blue crystals directly from the cash shop. So even free to play players can just spend gold to buy it, but they've made the skins untradeable. Do you think they're gonna keep doing that going forward, or what do you think about that?
I think Omen was royal crystals, actually. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was just royal crystals, if I'm remembering correctly, but I didn't buy it, so.
Yeah, but the Alar and the noble ones, those are definitely blue crystals.
I think it was both, right? Like I think the ones that you got for royal crystals could be traded, and the ones that you got for blue crystals were bound.
Yeah, there were multiple Omen packages.
Oh.
The one that came with the wallpaper was Royal Crystal only, and then there was one for the body armor only and one for the weapon only.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure those were also only Royal Crystals.
Okay, so they basically haven't decided yet what they're gonna
Amazon's
do.
been really, really careful with their monetization. So it's hard to assume what they're going to do with Neria's. I'm going to assume that it's still going to be Royal Crystal only, and I think that is fine, at least for Neria's, because it's not really a package thing. You're choosing what you want to buy rather than having to choose a package or not. So I think Neria's is kind of the exception to that. keeping it as royal crystals is probably okay, at least for Neria's.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Jay in this because Neria's shop, the way they sold it in Korea was a little bit funky. You can't really make it into a package, into one blue crystal package, because people want to mix and match. What happens is like people end up buying like 4 different types of tops, 4 different types of pants, and like I can't really imagine how they would do this in blue crystal style, but who knows? Maybe they will throw an option to buy each piece with the blue crystal, which will be perfect for free-to-play players.
What do you think is better though? Because obviously I think it's good that free-to-play players have access to the skins directly without having to go through the auction house. But one of the things that really annoyed me about the Arc Pass, you could only buy them on that character, and each character had a limit so there was a 1 buy per character limit. And then once you buy it on that character, you couldn't trade it through the auction house. You couldn't put it in your roster storage. It was stuck on that character. So one of the advantages about skins in Korea is that, let's say I buy a skin for my Bard, I can use that same skin on my Sorceress because it's the same mage subclass. And later on, when I get tired of that skin, I can just resell it on the auction house. But the way that Amazon has done it with the Arc Pass specifically is that once you buy it, you bought it. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't secondhand it off to another character. You can't retrade it. You're basically stuck with it. And what really annoyed me was that, you know, when the Arc Pass skins first came out, if you bought with blue crystals, they were undyeable. So I bought my outfit with the assumption that I couldn't dye it, and then they hotfixed it in later. But I had already bought the outfit, so I couldn't actually buy another one because there's a 1 buy per character limit. So I feel like it's good that it's accessible, but there's also a lot of problems with it. What do you think about this whole like blue crystal versus royal crystal system?
Yeah, so like for Neria shop, if they restricted to like choose 1 top out of these like 15 auctions, it would be horrible. Like, so if they maintain the same like way that they've used for the Arc Pass, that'll be horrible decision making. Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. They have to come up with a better way than this.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the easiest solution would be just to make it available for both currencies, no? So that one was sellable on the auction house if people wanted to sell it, and others could just, if they're free to play, they can also decide to just buy it with gold if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think that would be the most flexible. What about you? What do you think, Shedda?
Isn't the current Arc Pass one, isn't that only blue crystals?
Well, you could from the shop, yes, but you could pay royal crystals for the super premium or whatever and get the costume. But even those ones are not tradable, so I guess in a way it is blue crystal only. I think they need to. It's a good intention, but they probably need to work on it to make it a little bit more flexible, in my opinion. But we can move on to the next topic. So there's a bunch of guild activities coming up in this May patch, and honestly, guild stuff, GVG, is an area of the game that I haven't really encountered much myself, other than going to the guild events every weekend and getting the free, like the easy rewards. So Jin, you were looking at a lot of the guild stuff, right? Do you want to go over what they are and are they worth doing?
Yeah, I got really excited about this like momentarily. So there are different types of islands that guilds can conquer. And of course, like this is a server-wide competition. It's probably the most buffy guilds that are going to go for these islands. Up to 5 guilds can get rewards for all of these islands. So each island gets 5 guilds that get reward from competing in it. The two most prestigious islands is the Slime Island and Medea Island. It's a PvP heavy competition for those 2 islands. 16 people from the guild compete in it. If you win the island, the guild gets 100k gold that week. And plus they get the option to host an event with the cost of 400k bloodstones for the server. So you get to set an event for your server in which anyone can participate in, anyone in your server can participate in and get an equivalent of like 1 level 5 gem if you've reached 14-15. So like everyone in your server is going to try to participate in this weekend event. And if this weekend event goes well, your guild can get up to 350k gold that week. So it's a really prestigious thing to go for if your guild is ready for it, and it has a lot of people who are willing to do PvP. Other than that, there are also other like A tier, B tier islands. A notable one is the Naruni one, where only 7 to 8 people need to participate. Actually, 8 people participate, but only the first 7 that get to the finish line count. So like you only need 8 people in a guild to participate in this, and who knows, you could win the island. So and it's not PvP, it's a race. So it's very accessible to any guild. It's accessible to a very small guild as well. So they have, I looked at a few videos where people were competing in these events and they look super fun. So I think it's a really good guild bonding event. If your guild has access to like streaming and stuff, you can also watch your people play if you don't have the time to participate in it directly. So I think it's really exciting stuff. Yeah, but you need quite a bit of coordination and the motivation to get ready for a particular island if you are intent on getting something big. Like one of the perks of the S tier island is that next to your guild name will be a red mark that shows that your guild owns an island. So it's like a flex thing. So the PvP islands, I think, I'm not sure if all islands have it, but if you own an island, like your guild mark next to your guild mark, you will get that indication that your guild is owning an island. So that's kind of the summary of the things to look out for.
Yeah, so I guess the 2 main ones are, like you said, Slime Island and Medea, the 2 PvP islands. I remember we would get up every Saturday and we'd be like, yo, PvP island, let's go. Because a level 5 gem is worth, right now, it's worth at least 1,000 gold. And it's, I think that price will keep going up with inflation. Plus, you get a lot of accessories. So, when you're 14-15, for example, you also get a bunch of relic accessories guaranteed. So it's a really, really profitable thing to do if that guild is hosting it. So basically, every weekend you should be going to these events. But so the question I think a lot of people will have is, first of all, how sweaty do you have to be to compete? Because these are open world PvP events, which means no equalization. So there's going to be a whole lot of talk about pay to win and how do you beat a whale guild and all that. So what do you guys think about that? Because I've never really even done GVG or considered doing it, but just how is it friendly? Is it something that most people can expect to be able? Can they compete, or is it just leave it to the whales?
Sadly, I think if you're thinking about the average guild right now, like if I look at our own guild, and we're pretty sweaty, but most of us are free to play. We're like at 1440, right? And if you think about the whale guilds, and if they're really like set on being that top dog guild on the server for specific PvP islands, let's say, for example, Medea or Slime Island, they're probably going to be rolling in with like plus 12 strong will, plus 12 fortitude, 1490, plus 20 weapons, and like a million phoenix feathers to res on the spot when they die. I remember the experience of like Tea Party, for example, when they were on RU. They just got like rolled by the Giga Whales, right? Like the RU gamer, like the resident Russian gamers, and as well as the Chinese whales on the Aldebaran server. So I think going for number 1 spot, like the first spot that Jin was alluding to, where you get the sick icon and host those events, I think that'll be harder. But even if you land in like the top 5, you still get some amount of gold, which might be like of interest, right? So let's say, I forget what the exact gold amounts are, but I think it ranges from like 100k to maybe like 20k for 5th, and 20k for like a guild is pretty nice. Like if you split it up amongst 20 people, that's like 1k gold for like just having fun at an event, and also getting some blood crystals too.
Yeah, so I guess you can never expect to. I mean, even like you said, even as sweaty as we are, I would never expect to go for the top spot. And also, it's not easy to host the events for the 350k gold. Like, log into your guild and see how many bloodstones you have. You need 400k to host it every week. So basically, you need everyone to be not just doing the bare minimum, but juicing the guild missions and doing them over and over and over every week, right? So I think even if somehow you can win, it's not really worth it for you to commit to it, because if you're just an average guild, like the majority of people, you won't even be able to take advantage of the rewards. So what about the non PvP events? So do you know what kind of rewards like the racing and stuff give?
Well, I'm not sure about I'm not sure about the rewards of actually owning an island. Maybe they give out the same rewards just for just owning one, just the standard 100k to 20k, but I doubt it actually. Like we might not get much from these islands. But just to correct, like maybe this whole 400k for bloodstones for hosting an island thing, I'm wondering if Amazon would actually implement it from the get-go. So we just don't know. Like, I just wanted to put out a disclaimer that all these numbers are based on KR.
Yeah, we're just speculating. So anyway, I think to sum it up, it'll be a fun thing for you and your guildies to try and do. Just get 16 people and go in and whatever, get rolled, or maybe you just have some fun. And then for everyone else, like the majority of people, maybe you're not even in a guild. Later on, when the guild starts hosting these events, then you just show up every week, get your free gem, get your accessories, and then basically what we did on RU, just participate in the events that people host and you get free rewards for it. It's like an extra thing you do every week. So it's all good in the end. It's something to look forward to. And obviously, if you try to compete for the top spot, it's going to be tough no matter where you are, unless you're in a Giga Whale guild. Speaking of events, there's a new Chicken Island. Honestly, I don't know much what we can say about this because it's this is a completely new thing that's new as far as I can tell to NA. So we don't know anything about it. I guess we'll find out. Hopefully it gives a bunch of mats for honing. And then speaking of honing, there's also a bunch of other content that we do know what it is. So there's Chaos Line Hard, Thunderwings Field Boss, and so this is all the South Vern stuff. So South Vern Cascade and South Vern Ghost Ship. So what do you think about Chaos Line Hard? Should people be saving their keys for Chaos Line? Because Hard and normal use the same keys, right?
Yeah, I think if you're 1445 right now and you're in that situation where you're just chilling, you definitely save your keys. Not only do you get like better rewards because you get like the Great Leaps, you also get a chance at the Omnium Stars. So if you've been Omega griefed by Moak and he's never giving you your Omnium Star for your +6 greater skill potion and from the Omnium Star rewards, you actually get another chance here to grab it instead. So then you can stress a little less about Moak kills.
Does a star not drop from normal?
Yeah, I saw Invent post saying people got it from normal.
Oh,
And I think I got mine from normal in KR or something. Yeah, I don't think it matters.
Oh, yo, that's
I only ever really ran hard mode, so I actually don't know.
Yeah, I've read multiple posts saying that they got it from normal.
Oh,
well,
I guess you only sell it for greater leap stones then. But I think that's even still better because, like, I think right now, right, when you exchange your normal stuff and you want like leap stones, for example, they're just bound to you when you buy it, but you're like already 14, 15 or something.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So if you want to buy, if you have to be 1370 to buy normal leaps, but at 1370 you already don't need them and you can't trade them or anything. So it's actually the same way on the Korean server. And I remember when Chaos Line first came out, everyone on KR was like, why is the shop like this? This is so dumb. Because it literally doesn't make any sense. When you buy it, it's already useless to you. It's already obsolete. So you're forced to use the 5-to-1 recipe or whatever. And I really thought they would change it for NA, but they just threw it in there as is. So I think even if you're not 1445, like Tulce said, even if you're 1415 and you're trying to push to 1445, you can use the extra leaps from Chaos Line Hard to try and go for 1445. Because like, who the hell's 1445 now? Not me. Smiley face.
Moj.
Same.
Wait, am I the only? I am actually the only.
You are the only person that's above 1445.
That's something.
You're boosted.
Streamer client, man.
For guys who are listening, I do not swipe. I am free to play. I'm just Omega lucky. So everyone, like, for all of you guys who are FOMOing right now about hard Valtan, just keep in mind that everyone who's 1445 right now is either playing a disgusting amount of Lost Art or swiping to, get more materials and go to buy those materials, or they're just Omega lucky, like disgustingly lucky. So it's really like, don't FOMO from those people. If you're going to normal Valtan right now, you are in good hands. You're actually you're like progressing well in the game, like in a very healthy manner. So you guys are doing a good job.
Honestly, I think if you're on track for Valtan first week, like Valtan normal, you're probably in the top 10% of population. Like I'm sure most people are not going to be able to get to Valtan. Obviously, I don't have the numbers, but
yeah, I think if we look at everyone who's in tier 3, right? I think you're like already probably top 10%.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go to Punica and inspect people, most people are not 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
Although what you said is like, even if you play a disgusting amount of Lost Ark, you still have to get really lucky, I think, to get 1445 right now.
I can confirm that. I
Like, we
play
all-
disgusting amount of Lost Ark, but I am not 1445 at all.
Shanda too, man.
I too can confirm
And
that.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of smogers in here except Tulce.
I'm cursed.
I mean, I used a lot of my mats to push my Lance Master.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jay's in the very unique situation where he gets to do normal Valtan twice, which is actually a sick position.
Yeah, and I'm actually on track to hit 1445 by Valtan release 2. So I'm actually able to do hard and normal.
All right, just kidding. There's only 3 smogers in
Wow.
here. Jay's not a
Yeah.
smoger.
I see.
Also, speaking about like content though, so there's a new field boss coming out, which is 1460. So you guys want to talk about what can people expect from Thunderwings, and so so up until now we've just been Zerg rushing every boss. So when we were low 1300s, we were Zerg rushing. What's that water boss? Orion.
Orion.
And then we Zerg rushed Moake, and then so when Thunderwings comes out at 1460, are we gonna be Zerg rushing Thunderwings and or so if people haven't gotten the star from Moake yet, for example, what should they be doing? Because what does Thunderwings give you over Moake? It's relic accessories, and there's no star from Thunderwings. It's only from Moake, and there's Stones of Chaos, but
That's the main reward.
yeah. So
Yeah,
Stones of
the main
Chaos.
reward.
Who wants to explain what Stones of Chaos are?
So I believe in the Korean and the Russian servers. We both use Stones of Chaos for basically a reagent to create your relic pieces, as well as a fun mechanic where you dump all your gold in gambling on your quality. So I think Saint One actually explained this on his stream once, and he was talking about how quality is rolled when you craft it or obtain gear, and it's always skewed towards 0. So that's why whenever you get a piece of gear, it's always like extremely low or green, and it's very rare for you to actually get blue and purple. And if you're like extremely lucky, you get a quality 100 piece. And if you want to fix that, so for example, you got like a really bad piece of quality, and like it's your weapon and it's a relic piece. So if you don't know, your quality on your weapon actually affects the amount of damage you do. So I think it scales from like 5 to 25% for relic, which means that your quality is actually super important on your relic pieces. Because if you look at your legendary, it's definitely not plus 25 on that. I think if you look at your quality, it scales from 5 to 15%, I believe, on your legendary pieces. So if you're like at quality 50 and that's like 10%, and you compare yourself to a whale who hit like 15%, you're only like off by like 5%. But if you compare yourself as a additional plus 12% on relic, and the other guy holding a 100 quality giga weapon and they're plus 25%, then you're already doing 10% less damage than that guy. And of course, as you can believe, and since the odds are skewed so badly to get a higher grade, and you have to use these chaos stones to roll quality, and you also have to use gold for every time you click that button, this effective system is basically whale bait. Or if you're like extraordinarily rich in game from like whatever activities you do, like flipping the auction house, then you can just like gamble. This is like probably the hardest gamble in the game for you to hit that like 100 quality check.
So basically, quality is important, and Thunderwings drops these stones, and you use these stones to try and re-roll your quality. And quality, the way it works, I believe, is the higher your quality is, the lower the percentage chance that you can actually increase the quality. So if you're like 0 quality, it's like guaranteed that your quality will go up, and the number it goes up is random.
Yeah.
But if you have like 99 quality, it's like very, very small chance for you to increase your quality. So it gets harder and harder. But
Oh yeah, don't you also need the stone to craft relic gear though?
Yep, you have to
Yeah.
consume it
Yeah.
for the relic gear. So
Yeah.
like, not only does it come from Thunderwings, because it's like so tied to your relic gear, it actually does drop from Legion rates, right? So unfortunately, if you're doing normal Valtan and you're like in the fortunate situation to do normal Valtan, you don't get any of these like Stones of Chaos, right? Because it doesn't make sense for the game to give you these reagents because you don't actually use them to make legendary gear, right? So you do have to be like 1445 to do hard Valtan, and later when you do like Bia kits and stuff, you will also get those Stones of Chaos.
I think it's also important to note that the quality skew thing that we just talked about, is only starting from relic gear, because I believe legendary gear actually skews high. Like if you craft Argos gear, it's you usually get like good quality.
Yeah, I think it's flatter. So chances are you get like a lot better gear. For example, if you already defeat the Abyss Raid right now and you get a whole bunch of accessories, those qualities are also extremely blue, if you notice. And then if, for example, if you get accessories out of Chaos Dungeon, you'll notice like it's basically all yellow. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Our Argos is a little different though, right? Like our Argos is extremely friendly to players. It drops, your class engraving on it. So this is something that I feel like NA players and EU players will have to get used to, like defeating Valtan and suddenly you don't get any class engraving on it. So I kind of feel like a lot of players will start to really appreciate when their accessories have some kind of class engraving on top of them.
Just talking about 1460 boss being released right now, I actually think it's a bit surprising they just let this happen so early. I think it's actually going to be such a bad zombie rush. Like you wouldn't be able to prevent people from trying to do it, but it's going to be so hard. Like 1445, we don't even expect many people to be 1445 by this releases, and yet you need to be 1460 to do damage to this boss. I'm not sure what kind of scene we will be seeing in the first week of Thunderwing. I'm worried, and it might actually be very FOMO to tap if boss like this exists.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I think of like, to get to Punica, you only need to be like 1100, right? And then you finish the story, and you get to 1310, basically, and you get to kind of zombie rush Moak down. Mm-hmm. But if you think about Thunderwings, you can go to Candaria at 1340, right? So you'll have a bunch of 1340s rushing Thunderwings.
Oh my goodness.
That's actually terrible. So yeah, the channel, there might be a lot of leechers.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the max gap to Moake is like 60 item level, because Moake is, it's like 100 item level on 115. So I guess it's about the same, right? Because if you're 1340, the gap to 1460 is like 120. But yeah, it'll be bad. And the thing is, so the main question is, I don't even think it's worth it to go and rush down Thunderwings like we did with Moake, because if you don't have the star, for example, I think you just sit at Moake. I remember in KR, I didn't do Thunderwings until I was 1490 because I was trying to get my star still.
Isn't it the relic though? It's the same thing as Moake. The reason why we wanted to go to Moake was because it dropped legendary gear, accessories. People would want to get relic gear if they can't get to Valtan hard. People would this would be the only source of Gamba. So the incentive is definitely there, I think.
At least with Moake, it's easier to get contribution. I don't know how to see if you're under item level. I don't even know if you can hit Thunderwings. Thunderwings hurts. Like
he hurts 1500 plus players. I don't think it's going to be viable to even be below eye level to rush it, because I don't think there's going to be overall enough players to kill it fast enough. Mm-hmm. If the channel's being filled with low level players trying to rush it.
Yeah. And then I also remember that like what I just alluded to, contribution is actually pretty important. So if you've ever done Moak when you're like 1340 and you can barely hit the boss, but someone in your party is like maybe 1370 and they sometimes hit the boss and you get contribution through them vicariously. Sometimes you'll like kill the boss and you're like no crab, no accessories, like 2 armor crystals, and that's it, right? And a couple of us kind of think it's because of your overall contribution and because of like how little you can actually hit the boss and get that contribution, as well as like overall kill time, right? Like let's say you kill Moak and it's like a bronze completion bonus. So you're getting like possibly a lower loot table, for example, and then also based off of your contribution, you get like an even smaller portion of that. So you just basically get nothing at all. So then it's like, hey, I might as well just go to Moak, and get some contribution there, get my star, get my Papu crabs, and like feel happy about that.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only reason you would go to Thunderwings is to pray and try to get some relic accessories, but it'll be really, really difficult to get contribution. It's just gonna be a worse version of Moake early on, where people are zombie rushing it. So I would probably stay at Moake if I didn't have my star yet. Luckily I got it today, so good for me. But Thunderwings is gonna be bad. So we'll have to see. Really There's also 1415 Ghost Ship coming out, and you get a little bit more stuff, but other than that, nothing really special about it. One thing that I guess we'll quickly mention, and then we'll move on to Valtan, is that the 1415 Ghost Ship is actually right next to the 1370 Ghost Ship. And when this came out in Korea, I actually had no idea that this thing existed. So you know how Ghost Ship used to be on the right of the Stormy Sea, and they moved it a little bit to the left, right? So it's closer to Nia Village. The Ghost Ship that's 1415 is in the old Ghost Ship spots to the right, and so they actually spawn right next to each other. And a lot of people don't know this. I remember people were going to the 1371 even though they were 1415 plus, because they just, like me, they had no idea that the 1415 one existed. So I actually went straight from the 1370 Ghost Ship all the way to the 1490 Ghost Ship. So just to let you guys know, it's there's two, and they're right next to each other. Anyway, so Valtan is the main thing, right? That's what we're all looking forward to. Valtan Waiting Room. What do you guys think about normal and hard releasing at the same time for Valtan? So I know how this is how it released on all the other servers, but I honestly, deep in my heart, thought that they might change it for our release, because it kind of promotes that FOMO that they wanted to avoid with Argos, where they're releasing both most at the same time. So you kind of feel this pressure to tap to 1445. No, like, what do you think about that?
I think from an economical standpoint, thinking about gold and materials, dumping gold basically, I think it's actually really healthy for Lost Ark. I don't think it's very healthy for the player base, because it promotes a lot of, bad habits and like FOMO and depression. Nobody likes to miss out on content, right? But I feel like at the end of the day, you still have to give something to players who are like beyond a specific item level, be it because like they're lucky and they got to 1445, or because they're a whale and they swipe their way there. I feel like you still have to give something for them. And then it comes back to the topic about your players who are like on item level or barely able to go into like Valtan. Let's say they're like 333 engravings, they're getting to 1415, they know nothing about the game. I feel like it's still, at least they have some kind of gateway there and some kind of feeling of completion. Whereas with Argos, it's like you go there, you do P1, and when you finish P1, it's kind of like, oh, that's it, like it's like, oh, that was easy. It's just a small and a big pizza, and it's kind of over. But at least with Valtan, it's kind of like a whole raid that feels somewhat complete. So I'm like overall pretty happy about how they're doing it. But I'm also coming from the position that I'm lucky that I hit 1445, so I don't really feel the FOMO.
So basically, your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm really biased here.
Well, what do you think, Shanda? Because you're on the struggle bus, right? You barely hit 1415. You're like 1420, right?
Yeah, 1423.
What do you think about Valtan and Hard coming out at the same time?
I want to do it. I think I've settled that I can't do hard. I just don't have enough mats, and because everyone's going to be FOMOing, the price is going to go up, and now it's just not really. I don't know. I'm in this rough spot, like. A part of me wants to go 1445, but a part of me is gonna regret it, because it's gonna kill my gold. And I'm free to play, so yeah, I'm a struggle.
I think for me, I finished reading 2 legendary books, and for people who haven't read any legendary books, I would recommend you use this opportunity to sell mats and get at least 1 legendary book done, rather than FOMO and top from 1415 to 1445. I think that would be like the one advice that I would like confidently give you if you hadn't read any legendary books yet.
I honestly think if you're 1415, you're going into normal Valtan, like Tulce said earlier, you're at a really good place. So that's why I think, that's the reason I was saying that I don't know. I understand that we got normal and hard at the same time on every other server, but I don't know if it was actually good for the players itself, right? Because it just feels bad when you're 1415. Like if you're like in Shanda's boat, and Shanda's, at least you can go to normal Valtan. A lot of people are barely gonna get to 1415 in time, so it just feels bad that there's 1445 content. And the other thing is that when Vicus comes out, that's 1430. So if everyone FOMO taps to 1445, let's say in the next 2 months, and then Vicus comes out at 1430, it's kind of really easy. Like, you have to learn the mechanics, sure, but a lot of the difficulty of Vicus is the damage check. It's like one of the first times that you actually hit the enrage timer because you don't do enough damage, and that's because people die or you're too busy dealing with the mechanics to actually hit the boss. But if everyone's 1445, a lot of that difficulty is gone. So I don't know. Like, what do you think about that, Jay?
I kind of wished overall that they released the content in like kind of like a zigzag. Every other server released Valtan with or Vicus with both their normal and hard modes, and people were complaining about not having enough content even up to now, and I feel like a normal and hard mode of a raid isn't technically more content. It's just an added content with 2 difficulties rather than having 2 extra raids to do. You can only really benefit from pushing to 1445, and getting there is huge, but you don't lose out too much if you're not able to make it. I just kind of wish that they released like the raids in quantity rather than a single like big raid with multiple difficulties instead, so that it would give more people something to work towards rather than feeling bad about not hitting the highest difficulty they can just to benefit off of it.
Yeah, like because normal and hard actually do share the same lockout. So if you do normal for that week on that character, you can't go into hard and vice versa. So it's not extra content.
Mhm.
Honestly, what do you guys think? Could they have released normal and hell, for example, at the same time? Because hell, as you know, is there's no reward other than in titles and stuff, and hell is equalized, so it's actually kind of like that. It's actually extra content because they're on different lockouts, and that's like content that people would be able to spend lots of hours in if they've never done hell modes, because it's very challenging, right? And to get the beast roar deathless run. So could they have released hell instead for people? Because if they just released normal, for example, a lot of people who got lucky, for example, 1445 plus, a lot of the whales, there's no challenge involved in normal. But if they released hell, then at least those people could do hell mode or something like that. So honestly, I think that might have been something cool. But I mean, what do you guys think about it? Could they have released normal and hell at the same time?
I think it would be super cool if they did do something like that, because I like to think about the game from like what streamers can do and really promote the game. And a lot of what I saw when Argos came out is like, Rich going in as the 1490 sorcerers, just deleting Argos, or like Shroud going in and also deleting Argos. Argos is just like a 1400 like deer moose reindeer thing, like he's just vibing, and some 1490 Giga Whale just like flops onto the goose and it dies. Like, what if hell comes out? It's completely equalized, and it like actually poses like a really interesting, challenging situation for these whales that like think the game is pretty easy. I think that would be super cool. Along those lines, actually, I was thinking about like, what if they actually did some kind of rehearsal, right, for Valtan and Vicus? I know it's like actually additional work on the dev team to like create something like that, but I've always enjoyed when I first learned a raid through rehearsal, for example, in Kaku Seidon's raids, and also like Deja Vu, which is quote unquote like the rehearsal version for Belshazzar raids in Korea and Russia. Like, I thought that was really fun, and like my character got equalized. I think that was completely okay. At least I was actually learning mechanics and actually like going through the fights, and also I didn't like share lockouts, so I felt like I could just bum around there.
Yeah. So what Tulce means by rehearsal mode is it's like a practice mode of the actual raid with less mechanics, but it still gives you some cool rewards. And it's like the baby mode, like to teach you that fight before you go in and with all the full mechanics and stuff. And I think that would be cool too, but
Yeah,
we got what we got.
Work.
Yeah, we got what we got. So, and then for the gold for Valtan, we actually don't know how much gold Valtan will give, because so far NA has had its own gold structure, completely different from KR and Russia. So do you guys think we're going to have Oreha gold removed at 1415? And the reason I asked that is because, as you guys know, at 1415 on the other servers, you actually don't get gold from Oreha Abyss Dungeon anymore. But in our version right now, even if you go over 1415, you still get that gold, mostly because we don't have Valtan. So do you think that with Valtan, they're going to cut the gold after you get 1415, or are they going to leave it?
I think they'd cut it, to be honest, because think about like if you can do those 3, you're getting a lot of gold a week on just one character. Like, I don't really think like
I think they're cutting it.
yeah.
But I do know that they do like that 3 raid thing, so maybe they keep it, right? Maybe they keep the three gold source thing, but I do know it's like really fixated towards like raids in general, so it's like a Legion raid specific thing. So I'm still leaning more towards actually deleting all your gold in Oreha dungeons.
Wait, also, wasn't hard mode lower item level gate for Korea? Or am I remembering things wrong?
For Valtan?
For
No.
Oreha.
Like, Oreha hard mode, was it 1370 for Korea?
No, it was lower. It was, you could go in at 40.
Yeah, so there's reason to believe that they might not cut, but who knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. So anyway, so I guess we'll talk more about Valtan. So the biggest change from Valtan over Argos is sidereal skills, and like, those are kind of like limit breaks from Final Fantasy. So there's a bar that fills up in the top left, and when it fills up, the raid leader can use one of 3 of the abilities, and it summons like a sidereal. So that's pretty cool. That you can look forward to that. But other than that, I think most people want to know. Like I get this question on my stream all the time, and they're like, "What should I do to prepare for Valtan?" And what are like the minimum specs? So what engravings do you need? What items do you need? What do you guys think? Or should I? People are like, should I push to 1445 or should I park it, go to 1415? I don't know if you probably get this question a lot too. So what kind of advice do you have for people trying to prepare for Valtan and wondering what they should do?
Well, the lowest hanging fruit you can prepare for is literally your item level, right? So I think step 1 is hitting the light item level requirement, so hitting that 1415 mark. I honestly think if you are a newer player in Lost Ark, hitting 1415 and not worrying about 1445 is the way to go. I know like you kind of feel like you're being left behind, and if you're like in a sweatier guild, like if you're in Monster, for example, you'll open up your guild menu, it's like, what the heck, look at all these 1445s. Like, don't worry about any of those guys. Just focus on yourself, get to 1415, and even play the market when you're there, right? Get some gold. And when you get that gold, you can tackle the second thing on the list, which is probably your engravings. Ideally, especially because we actually have a new engraving update, we have a lot of very interesting and very overpowered engravings that are very good for DPS. So things like Adrenaline to give you really good base crit chance, things like Hitmaster that allow non-positional classes to do extra 16% damage. Those are like really, really good. I actually think when you're going like 3-3-3, there are some classes where you really don't need Grudge to do a lot of damage, and that's fine. And not bringing Grudge in that situation for like normal Valtan is okay. Like Valtan is a fight where if you live until Ghost Phase in P2, when you're actually fighting the cow and you get to that final stage, you've like done your job. You should like pat yourself on the back. Like you've done a great job of surviving, because Valtan is all about a fight that's all about your positioning and not getting hit. I know like it's a dumb meme where it's like, oh, just don't get hit, forehead. Like Valtan is actually the epitome and the beginning step of learning not to get hit. And that's probably the most important thing. Get to P3, do some damage, and continue to throw those skills that IU was talking about, those sidereal skills. If you are familiar with Russia, we used to call them Esther skills. Same thing in Korea. Or if you're a Giga memer on Russia, we used to call them Esto skills, because that's what the Russians call them. But yeah, just focus on 1415 first, and then get your engravings. So try to get 3x3. So chances are it's probably going to be class and 2 good DPS engravings. None of the raid captain plus spirit absorb combinations, by the way. Not that. That is not 2 DPS engravings.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, that is a no bueno, sir. But yeah, so try to get those 2 first. After that, it's really about studying. There's actually so much content out there. Like a lot of people who play on Korea that stream a lot, like Kanema. Me and another guildmate like Banzo, we used to live vicariously through Korean streamers. We used to watch Saint One do Hell Valtan, like 500 hours. Like I'm sure a lot of you OG people know this. And then there's like Kanema, who literally has like 12 scouters that just does Legion raids back to back. You can look at like what they're doing, how they're positioned, what their strategies are, as well as like ask questions to them, because like all of them are like very open to answering questions about how to tackle specific Legion raids. Other than that, Invent's actually really good too, like for guides on how to do these encounters.
Definitely follow twitch.tv/Tulce for all the pro strats.
Yeah, follow him.
What about you, Shanda? How can your cockroach brethren? What advice do you have for people preparing for Valtan?
Make sure your class is playable. For example, if you're a cockroach and you don't have spec, yeah, good luck. Yeah, good luck there. I would say make sure your class is like, functional. If you're that kind of class, just make it work, right?
So by functional, you mean your stats actually matter now. So you should have stats and engravings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What so like, okay, so there's also, so other than engravings and item level, which I guess just the first two things you should focus on. What about in terms of like items and runes or any of the side stuff? Maybe Jay or Jin could chime in. But for me, I stocked up. I bought like 1,500 destruction bombs yesterday. I'm ready. I'm trying to flip some destruction bombs. What items do you think people are gonna need to have for Valtan? So phase 1 and phase 2, and like I guess what I really want to ask is, are items needed to clear, or can you clear without items?
Items are needed.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah.
If I catch a party with no corrosion or destruction bomb, I'm gonna flip the table, man.
Yeah,
Straight
so-
off the bat.
Yeah, so like just to talk about corrosion bombs, like the norm that I hope is also going to be implemented in NA is that the support in one of the parties at phase 2 will take corrosion bombs. So what corrosion bombs do is they allow for each destruction skill or bomb to do extra destruction. So at least one person has to throw the corrosion bomb on Valtan for it to take enough destruction damage. So just decide on one person who will take corrosion, and the rest you have to throw destruction bomb. And another QoL that just popped onto my head is hopefully they'll also bring the QoL where we see who threw which bomb or used which item, right? So we get to find out who didn't throw the destruction bomb. Please throw destruction bombs at phase 2. So yeah, you need items. And also like you mentioned runes, so I'm just going to talk about it. If purification runes are preferred, but you don't need them for phase 1, we usually use them to remove bleed stacks. If you're close to 5 Ignea tokens, I would suggest that you get them done and get that rune. It's nice to have, but it's not a must. It would be nice if you have a paladin or a gun lancer in your party that could purify you once in a while. So yeah, like if you're close to 5 Ignea tokens, I would say go get it before Valtan releases.
The thing about items is that Valtan is the first raid, I would say, where if you don't use battle items, or if your raid is not using battle items, it becomes significantly harder. And so I guess I want to ask Jay, but what do you think is the overall understanding of items in the West? Because from what I've seen in pubs, like nobody uses items, like nobody understands what items are. So it's gonna be huge grief when everyone goes to Valtan. So like, I don't know, what have you observed in NA? Like, do people know how to use items, Jay, or what have you seen?
I mean, I think people know how to use them, but people are just really cheap. You can go through plenty of parties, like even in your daily contents, like Guardian raids, where even on annoying maps, people won't flare or use pheromones to keep a boss in a singular spot. And I'm not really sure where the mentality is, where people will always just wait for someone else to do something before you do anything. But I think people need to get into the mindset of battle items are 100% necessary, and there's a reason why they are throwing them at us. They are absolutely necessary, and you should get used to using them as soon as possible, for sure.
I guess people will realize that when they go to Valtan and they can't destruct the armor because nobody's throwing destruction bombs. So hopefully the event Guardian raid taught people how to use destruction, but if not, Valtan will definitely be this iron wall that they literally cannot break through. So other than that, I mean, to prepare for Valtan, I guess you can keep the battle item chest that they're giving us and try to work on that purify rune, even though it's optional, and then just try to hit your item level. So other than Valtan, there's also Deskaluda. But before we talk about Deskaluda, does anyone have anything to add on Valtan?
Oh, one last thing. Maybe go through your skill and look for something that has push immunity. This will save you in phase 2 Valtan when you're about to get hit. If you use a skill that has this description, push immunity, you might live. So it's going to prevent you from getting knocked out of the map and dying. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just also thinking about skills, and now that you mentioned Deskaluda and also talk about Valtan, one of the key mechanics of Valtan is actually, countering the boss. You should all bring a counter to that encounter, and if you don't, you're basically griefing your entire raid. There's 2 very distinct moments where you actually need a counter. One is at 65 bars for Valtan, where he calls everyone a pathetic worm, and he jumps into the middle, and he does a counter. He does a charge that can only be stopped by a counter. And if you do not counter the boss, he will grab everyone who's on that path and basically kill all of you unless you're grossly overgeared. And also in the final phase, when you're like encountering his ghosts, major spoiler alert, you actually need to counter the ghosts to remove the buff that he has, which reduces damage taken. So please make sure you are bringing a counter. I know like there used to be a class called Summoner. Nobody likes to bring a counter there. The old Zerkers, they used to never like to bring their counter. They got super buffed, so you have no reason to bring that. And finally, you lovely Sorks out there that love to use Infernal and Double Infernal, for the love of God, please just bring Squall for this one encounter.
Okay, so other than Valtan, there's also Deskaluda, which is the new Guardian. And I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I was first starting and I was a newbie, I got to Valganus at 1385 or whatever that level was back then. And I just got my ass handed to me because Valganus is honestly extremely difficult if you're a new player. And I remember trying to matchmake Valganus every day on my Bard, and literally was unclearable in matchmaking, even in Korea. And I couldn't get into any of the party finder groups because my engraving sucked. So I remember when I went to 1415 and I was about to do Deskaluda, I remember thinking to myself, I'm fucked, aren't I? Because it's the next stage up from Velga. And the funny thing is Deskaluda compared to Valganus is an absolute joke. It's actually a training dummy. So I guess what are you guys' thoughts on Deskaluda, and do people need to be worried about Deskaluda, or KFC as we like to call it?
I think you should still worry about Deskaluda. There's actually a lot of low-key mechanics in that fight.
Yeah.
So for those who aren't familiar with our beloved KFC, or Deskaluda, I guess it's called in NAE and EU, countering is probably the core mechanic of the entire fight. Like, you want to counter that boss as much as possible. It's on probably the best Guardian map in the entire game, other than, the ones that come later with Hanumatan and stuff. But countering is key, because, when you use pheromones to keep the boss from flying away, when Deskaluda wants to fly away and retreat, it gives you an opportunity to counter to stop the bird, which is like completely beautiful, right? So everyone should be like stacking up and getting ready to do that one counter. Other than that, there's actually a destruction check where you want to blow up the feathers, so you get this buff that actually heals you, which is beautiful, because now it prevents, well, it doesn't really prevent, but it dissuades a lot of bards who like to press, their Serenade of Salvation instead of their Serenade of Courage. So yeah, like you get rewarded for countering because you don't need to throw pheromones. You don't have to chase them down and use a flare. You get rewarded for destructing the boss. It's not so difficult that you have to throw a destruction bomb, but that is like extremely appreciated because you get a heal. And that heal actually later becomes a crit buff that makes you do like tons of damage. So Deskaluda is actually like a wonderful fight. I think it's probably one of the best design fights. And it's like perfect coming after Valganus, which is a heavy mechanic fight too.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned, it's like perfect prep for Valtan. Like, they almost designed it so that you gather together to counter. Like, everyone has to be together before countering the boss. Like, getting used to taking care of aggro, right? And also like destruction and all of that. So it's a really good way to learn mech, and which has been the way the game was since the beginning. But like really hammering it down with this fight. Yeah, exciting fight.
Yeah, I think Deskaluda is, first of all, it's much less stressful than Valganus, and it's much less annoying than Yoho. So, I mean, out of all the Guardians that are out right now, it's probably the best design, the best one to do daily. And 1415 is also a really great place to park all your alts in the future. So expect to be doing a lot of KFC, a lot of Deskaluda, and by the time you're done with it, you're gonna be a master of it. Like, I think all of us can do Deskaluda in our sleep, and it's such a great fight. So looking forward to that. Do you think the Leapstone prices are gonna have a big effect because Deskaluda is coming out and it's giving more Leapstones? And also, what's the relic drop rate in Deskaluda? I don't really remember. So Deskaluda can drop relics, but I feel like the drop rate is really, really low, right?
Yeah, it's super low. I think that there are some runs in like Russia where I would kill Deskaluda and just don't get any relics, and that was like relatively common, I think.
Okay, and speaking of Guardians, there's also the other I guess a big piece of content coming out is challenged Guardians. So what are challenged Guardians? What can people expect from challenge? Are they actually a challenge?
No.
Yeah, I think when you go on your main, so if we actually have the implementation where challenges are roster instead of character, it actually won't be that bad, assuming your stats and your engravings are actually properly, assigned. So what it does, it basically squishes you down to whatever tier and item level that Guardian belongs to. So for example, if you're doing a Shadow Doggo or Shadow Legioris, it'll squash you down to T3 Yorn item level and stat distributions to do that. The only challenge Guardian I think people are most worried about is Velga, right? Because Velga comes out, and then I remember in Russia, whenever Velga comes out, everyone's like, all right, I'm skipping that Guardian. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yep. And then the other one that's actually really fun is Urnil, right? Because it's the hell mode Urnil, where he has a new moveset and he's actually more challenging than the original. So that'll be fun for people to fight.
Yeah, wasn't Urino like that in the event Guardians? He would
Yeah,
roll back
he
and
was.
stuff. Yeah, so we actually did have exposure
Yep.
to that version. Yeah.
But in the
So
Guardian
did that
event,
one.
you're giga overpowered, so it doesn't matter. But in challenge mode, you're
True.
equalized. When you get rolled on, you just lose 50% of your health. It's the worst, man. Yeah, so basically what the challenge Guardian is like Tulce said, it squishes you down, so it's equalized content, but you do keep all of your tripods and your engravings. So if you have your main setup with tripods and engravings, it's honestly not that bad. It's actually pretty easy, but you still have to kind of know what you're doing with some of the mechanics because the gear is squished, so you can't just go in and one shot everything. And you get rewards once per roster. So it used to be that every character could do 3 challenge guardians a week, but that just got too tiresome because you'd have to do it on every single. It's like the current event now, right? You can do it on every character, but they just made it so that you got 6 times the amount of rewards, and you just have to do it on any character once per week, which is a really nice quality of life that we're getting right off the bat. And that reward actually scales off your item level, right? So it scales up the highest item level in your roster. So if you have a 14, 15 plus and you do it, I believe you get guaranteed relic accessories, right, Jin?
I think so. I haven't looked at it again at the post.
Yeah, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So we'll have to see what we actually get. But anyway, it's a good thing that another piece of homework, if you want to call it that, but more content is always good, right? So there's some classes that suck in equalized content, right? How good is Shadowhunter in equalized, Shanda?
I hate it. Oh man, dude. I barely transform in equalized. I just
That's because you have less spec because it gets squished, right?
Yeah, and then
I think out of the classes I play, they're okay. But what are some of the worst classes in equalized, and should people be concerned if their main is quote unquote one of these bad classes?
Isn't it BM? A battle master?
BM's pretty unhappy.
War dancer,
yeah, war dancers.
I think I need this spec class just gets
Yeah, a lot of your spec classes just get dumpstered. And a lot of classes that require specific stat, kind of cutoffs, those actually get a little scuffed. For example, if you're playing Ignition Sorceress, you're waiting years for your bar to fill up and do tons of damage. But you're still good because you're a burst class. It just doesn't feel as smooth as it once was, right? I think, to be honest, a lot of the patch changes that Smelgate has done, I feel like they fixed a lot of inconsistencies in this.
Isn't LM really good in equalized? This is not true equalized content, right? Because there's no book, but
Yeah, their stat allocation allows them to essentially maintain 100% crit even with no stat in equalized. So they just do the same damage they would normally do without the stat required for it.
Yeah, it's the tripod that lets them do this. But I'm wondering if they didn't touch challenge guardians when they touched the other equalized stuff. I'm wondering if they actually fixed it. In that case, it's not that bad, right? Or no, they didn't fix this one.
I don't think the Book of Coordination shares with Challenge Guardians.
Challenge
okay,
Guardians it's non-book.
Okay, it's gonna be misery then for some classes. Okay.
Pain.
Yeah.
Man, I should have made an LM.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy, bro. I'm really happy.
I mean, supports will always be fine. Yeah,
they'll be fine. Yeah.
And then if your class is artillerist, you're also completely fine, or Zerker, because you're just absolutely disgusting with your engravings.
Yep.
But the thing is, now that it's roster bound, it matters less because you could just go on another class that's better and equalized, for example, and just do it once for your whole roster because it scales off your highest character anyway, so it doesn't matter what character you go on. Well, speaking of classes, I guess we can talk about balance patches. So this is honestly kind of surprising to me. I didn't think we would be getting the latest Korean balance changes so quickly, but it's honestly not confirmed, but I mean, it's pretty much confirmed, right? Like we are going to be getting the latest PTR changes from Korea this patch.
Yes.
We're inferring based on the Destroyer rework, right? Because they're bringing just the reworked version of Destroyer. It will be weird if they don't bring the other classes patches with it. Yeah.
Well, they literally said Smilegate RPG recently released a balance patch on many of the advanced classes to tune, update, and further define these classes, blah, 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 blah. And then they said we'll provide more specifics later, but you can look forward to these changes coming alongside the Destroyers. So basically, Surge Funeral.
It's not a funeral. Come on.
Surge Funeral. I mean, my bard it's gonna be nice. So I didn't think they would release it so soon. Did you guys think it was actually we're gonna get it this quickly? Because I thought we would have a little more time.
I thought we would have more time, for sure. I thought at least we would have like 1 more month before the funeral came.
The thing is, so in Korea, a lot of people might not know because you don't keep up with how the game is balanced in Korea, but these changes are supposedly based off of the very end game content, which is Appleshoot Hard 1500 plus characters. And not only is it based off of the super end game, it's also based off of what they would consider skilled play. So let's say, for example, Devil Hunter on average might be doing poor damage, but it has the damage potential of being a top DPS class in the hands of a skilled player, whatever they define that as. So that's their balancing criteria, is like optimal or near optimal play at end game. So I was surprised that we're getting this so soon because we're not anywhere near end game. Like we're not anywhere near Belshazzar plus content, and most people in NA are not playing anywhere near optimal. So what do you think about the timing of this balance patch? Like, is it actually going to be a good balance patch for us?
Okay, so maybe I'm speaking from a perspective of artillerist and LM main, but all of these some of these patches, most of the patches that these two classes got were like fixing stuff that was really cumbersome. Like it was fixing something that should have been fixed, you know? So I'm actually for this patch. I can't speak for other classes that actually got a lot of like damage balancing because they were doing OP damage and endgame content. But like I'm all for this patch because especially like Destroyer, like this class had to be reworked ages ago. So I'm actually happy that they're bringing some of these patches earlier because I know that some of the patches had to do with the damage endgame, but there were also patches that dealt with old problems that had to be fixed.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you want to talk
like
about artillerist changes and how they will impact Valtan? Because I remember one of the biggest gripes about people playing with artillerists, and I should clarify, playing with bad artillerists who didn't know how to play their class properly, is that they would always trigger this counter mechanic on Valtan where everyone has to stop attacking. But because artillerist has attacks that have delayed damage, like the missile bomb and stuff, they would actually shoot their skill and then pop.
And they can't cancel.
They can't cancel it, so they would wipe the whole raid, right? So
yeah, I'll be super brief. So like I'll talk about the artillerist change. The like test server patch they brought, it was a meme because all they really did was they got rid of the staggers that artillerists were proud of. Like the stagger was the only thing that the artillerists were proud of. It's mostly the homing barrage and air raid skills. The two skills have really high stagger right now, but they made it to the lowest level possible. So they took stagger away from artillerists. The reason being counters are triggered by stagger. So instead of like allowing the artillerists to cancel out of their skills, they removed the stagger that makes that skill trigger counter, right? But as you said, if you know how to play Valtan, even if you have high stagger in that skill, you shouldn't be triggering counter. Counter is pretty predictable at Ghost Phase. That being said, after the balancing patch, the big benefit of the balancing patch for artillerists was canceling out of some of the moves that made them immobile during the barrage mode. Not being able to use time stop when you're in barrage mode. Like these things they fixed, which I feel super happy for. And like for LM, just to briefly mention, one of the biggest drawbacks of the red skills was having a conditionality to hit a skill from a certain distance to be able to do max damage. They removed that conditionality. So these balances for especially the two classes that I've made were very improving, like it's very quality of life kind of balancing patch.
It's good for Valtan though, right?
I guess. But they did give staggers to other skills like swing, and they gave extra stagger to the multiple rocket launcher skills. So like, there are ways around it. And in general, if you look at the artillerist discussion board in Inven, they're like happy. They're very happy, especially with the additional changes that they brought on. They brought with the main server update, they gave a 40% damage boost to 2 of the tripods. The flamethrower, flamethrower, and I think air raid. Air raid. Now we use another. Right now we're using a lightning tripod, but with the new the fire tripod, we get 40% additional damage in those 2 skills. Those 2 skills really made artillerists super happy. They're very happy right now.
I guess we can briefly talk about the classes that we're focusing on, and then we can go in order. So I can just talk about Bard. Bard didn't really get anything. We got 1 extra duration. We get 1 extra second duration on all the debuff abilities, which is good. And then the most important thing, I guess, is this patch was supposed to be a rework of all the counter skills and adding counters to classes that had subpar counters. So before, how it worked was that every class had 1 counter usually, except for some classes who had 2, and they just basically standardized it across the board so that every class had multiple options to counter. And so Bard got counter added to Prelude of Storm, which is the lightning skill, which means that we can actually drop Rhythm Buckshot for Valtan. And so now that we're talking about it, I guess I can see why they put the balance patch here, because a lot of these balance patches actually make Valtan a lot more enjoyable. Not just in terms of damage, but like you said, in terms of quality of life, because it lets you be more flexible with your skills. And because Valtan has so many counter heavy mechanics, having the updated counters and extra options for counters will just make it that much easier. And Blade, Surge Funeral, remaining energy is still strong, and Surge will still be good, but eating the damage nerf does suck. But other than that, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with the Bard changes, even though it's kind of, you always want more as for your main, even though we got Bard's got a buff undeniably, but you just want a little bit more. But I think it's a good change for Valtan, and it definitely makes Valtan easier. So I guess, Shanda, what about your classes? Good, bad?
Good if you're a impulse player, because before this balance patch, if you're an impulse player, you're referred to as a selfish class. This is because there's no damage synergy when you're transformed, right? Or there's not any synergy when you're transformed. And because you're spending most of your time transformed, you're not helping like your team get a buff. So now they added 6% damage increase, constant synergy to transform. So now maybe people will be a little bit more happy playing with a cockroach, because you just get a 6% damage increase.
Was that the main? That was the main thing, right? But then, was that the only thing? They also changed a bunch of stuff with like Howl and stuff like that. But I think that's more for the other. That's more for perfect suppression, right? Or does that affect? Yeah.
They added more synergies too, right? Like on the dash, that's also a synergy now too. And Howl, they made it so that it generates less gauge, and also I think it takes up more mana. That's more of a suppression thing, because it kind of changes the rotation a little. But then because it kind of got nerfed a little, the director, I think I read in the comments that he said that, oh, he didn't mean to like nerf the class. So he added a new counter, which is a human skill counter, which it's actually a good skill, because that move is also a damage skill. So now like you didn't have to take a counter that like just did no damage. So I guess that's something.
Jay, what about Scrapper? So Scrapper got a lot of changes, right? So what about the classes that you're playing?
Pretty much every class I play outside of Sorceress got buffed, so it's a great sign for me. Scrapper got a 24% global damage buff to all their skills. They had all their main skills that they already use given the back attack tag, which for those who don't play Scrappers, Scrappers are a back attack class. You gain optimal damage for back attack, so you should always be back attacking when you can. And they removed the annoying necessity of using 2 skills to gain optimal attack buff uptime lowered it down to 1 so that it aligns better with your rotation. So big quality of life for Scrapper players. If you're playing Scrapper and you're worried about whether or not the class was good or not, it's already good and it just got better essentially.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of like a more a quality of life oriented patch, and then some classes that were doing too much damage. Basically, just Surge Blade just got shit on. They got their arms and legs cut off, but
Arms and legs cut off.
Yeah, you guys suck.
oh my god, this is Surge funeral, man.
My God.
Well, what
Basically,
other? Yeah,
50%
like
damage. It's not that bad.
15%
It's
is a
sad.
lot.
It's basically you basically lost 1 row of engravings. Like think about it that way.
Oh my god.
So everyone else going into Valtan hard like 3x4, this man's going in like 3x3. So
I'm smoking.
it is a big deal, but I think it's very warranted. As a crit synergy slave, I think it's very warranted.
Okay, well, I guess Tulce, you can, since you play every class, you can wrap up the rest of the classes. What about what? I guess you can talk just about anything that makes big impacts for Valtan specifically.
I think for Valtan, Valtan is once you do a lot of Legion raids, I feel like a lot of people refer to Valtan as a training dummy for Legion raids because he kind of like just stands there and does a bunch of moves that are extremely predictable once you're very good. So just to like wrap things up in terms of the Valtan raid, I think the best classes from a progging standpoint are your Hitmaster classes. So these are like your gunslingers, your sharpshooters, your artillerists, your sorks, anyone that is non-directional, they'll have a great time in terms of progging. So I think the biggest change for the class that I main, Gunslinger, is that Time to Hunt is actually buffed, and the skills that Time to Hunt use are actually buffed. And they're buffed in such a way that even Peacemaker gunslingers are kind of toying with the idea of using Rain of Bullets. So Rain of Bullets no longer has a back attack flag if you take a specific tripod. I think it's called All-in-One. It's similar to the tripods that you take on your shotguns. And people have been replacing shotgun rapid fire, which is by far the clunkiest and the least damage out of all your shotgun moves. So this is like a huge plus for Peacemaker and for Time to Hunt gunslingers. Other than that, I think Hawkeye, I know the Hawkeye changes on the test server were extremely sag and smooch, but I think the ones that rolled on the live, are they better? Jay, do you know? I actually didn't follow up on this.
They are good. They are very, very good. Hawkeye players are super happy. More damage, just the class itself feels way better. I think people are also switching from Deathstrike to Second Ally.
Yeah.
Because the class overall feels a lot smoother to play in Second Ally. It's an agi, or I guess swiftness-based class. So it's nice and zoomy, and you're using a lot of bow skills a lot. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, in terms of like quality of life and clunkiness that the others have alluded to, I think Hawkeye also got a lot of love in the destruction department. So if you play Hawkeye right now, I think you'll be familiar with Yoho in the third phase where Yoho gets incapacitated or staggered and then a destruction check appears. And you're here using your charging shot and having no other form of destruction. And you're sitting there like twiddling your thumbs. So now your atomic arrow, I think, also has 1 level of destruction. And your charge shot actually has 2 levels of destruction. So this is actually really good for Valtan 2, especially after Corrosion Bomb. So that means you can do like up to 5 points of destruction with just your skills by yourself, which is huge. So, yeah.
And I think so in Valtan Phase 2, so the way the mechanic works is that he starts up with these stacks of armor, and you need to bait him to charge into a wall and use destruction or weak point abilities on him or bombs, and you need to do a certain amount of weak point or destruction to him to break the armor. And if he has armor, he basically takes less damage and deals more damage, so you really want to get rid of his armor. And I think it's 45 weak point or something. I don't remember. Do you guys remember the number?
I don't.
For total? For both?
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah, I think it's both.
It's both.
Yeah, so being able to do like, so if you think about it being 40, for example, right? Just as an example, I think it's actually more than that. But if you think about it being 40 and there's 8 of you, that means that every person has to do 5 points of weak point. So some quick maths there. And Hawkeye before, like, if you didn't throw a bomb, so this is again going back to you need to throw a bomb, is because a lot of classes don't have 5 points of weak point. And so in this patch, they gave more destruction to gun lancers, I believe, and also Hawkeye.
I think those are the
Yeah.
And then
So-
you have some classes that just waltz into the fight with like 6. So like Clavier is a good example of this. Gunslingers and Deadeyes are a good example of this. Red Warlords are also a good example of this.
Sork.
So yeah, Sork
Has
just
a lot.
casually throwing out 2 Infernals to do 4 destruction. That's pretty cool, So yeah, they're evening the playing field, which is really good news for the Western audience. But still, you should still throw a bomb. Just saying.
Yeah, well, if everyone throws a bomb is 3, right?
Yeah, it's 3, and then
And
+1 on
with
corrosion.
corrosion,
Yeah,
yeah. So
+1.
if you throw 7 bombs that do 4 each, it's already it's more than half of the total value you need right away. And so everyone just needs to use like 1 or 2 skills, and you got it done. But
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, let's just hope that the item alert on the system chat also comes with Valtan.
that's Mocopium. I don't think there's any way we're getting that kill.
Yeah.
I think that's
Say.
a little too new. But if you do play with party effects on or raid effects on, you actually can see your teammates throwing a bomb. Like you'll see the little black bomb fly. That's how I used to like see it in Russia. So if you're keen enough and like let's say you're a raid leader, you can actually like look at all that kind of stuff and be like, hey, I only counted 3 bombs. Like
You can also hear the bomb, right? You can hear like the
Yeah.
boom sound.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if
Hear enough of
you
them. Yeah.
the funniest thing is like in Korea, if people don't throw bombs, they just immediately hit raid stop
Yep.
because
Yeah.
they're like, I don't want to play with you, like cheapo, you cheapskates. So as soon as like the Valtan does the charge and you hear like boom, boom, and then you hit that's like 2 bombs, right? Like you just hit raid stop. You're just like, oh, I'm done. I'm out of here. So you can actually, if you're playing with sound on, you can hear how many bombs people are throwing.
One also thing to note is the debuff to pay attention to. So when you corrosion bomb, you ideally want to throw the corrosion bomb before Valtan actually charges. So when he's doing his charging animation, you want to throw that first. And you should check like the debuff is actually there, because if you're throwing destruction bombs without corrosion, like you're losing a lot of value there. And everyone should you should be able to figure out who's throwing that corrosion bomb beforehand.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Valtan overall. Like, so out of this patch, I guess, just to get into the closing here, out of this patch, what are you looking forward to the most, or like what things? Multiple. For me, it's just doing Valtan with the boys. That I'm looking forward to that, and because Valtan is like such a fun fight, and I'm looking forward to doing it myself, but also I'm also really looking forward to watching new players do Valtan. Like I have a couple real life friends who are just picking the game for the first time. I can't wait to see them get destroyed by Valtan, and watching streamers, like new streamers, get destroyed by Valtan. Like I think that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
Dude, I'm just looking forward to doing basically just more things to do in game, right? Because usually after weeklies and then daily, you're just like, all right, kid, now what?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Valtan, if you're experienced, you're not really spending a lot of time in there. I kind of want to go into a group with a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, because that's like content, right? Wiping is fun to an extent. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, playing with new players is fun to an extent.
Oh, that's pretty easy. You just click the matchmake button.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Matchmake Valtan is probably going to be the most premium content there is. Like, watching the laser show on the wolf fight, that's probably going to be hilarious.
Oh man, dude.
You should.
Who got hit?
I think if I can get my main to 45, and then maybe in a few weeks, if I can get an alt to 14, 15, and I'll just go on my alt as like a spy into newbie groups, I think that's gonna be extremely fun for me. So what are you guys looking forward to though?
I think I just hope that, like, I mean, outside of doing like Valtan and Challenge Guardians, because I like more maths, I hope that people go into it blind. There's something fun about progging content for the first time, and I hope that new players who have never even heard of streamers, or don't go on Twitch or YouTube, kind of just explore what Legion raids are like without a guide. Because that was some of the most fun I had when I was learning the game from the start. And I'm looking forward to watching new people kind of, if they're going blind, I'm looking forward to watching them kind of figure it out on their own too.
You think a lot of people are going to, it's always something I'm wondering about as well. Like how many people are actually going into these counters blind? Because if you look at Party Finder, a lot of them say no mechs or EXP or whatever, but are there really that many people that played on Russia or Korea, or have they just watched a video? It's always like I always wonder what they mean by no mechs, because I've joined, I don't know about you guys, but I've joined plenty of no mechs parties where people did not know the mech.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of difference when we talk about knowing the mech, because for us, the mech is the moves that the bosses do. And then like the wipes are like the gimmicks, right? So like for example in Rahendo where you get the 4 swords and you're like, mech, they were referring to that, but then the dude gets hit by every single ability that the king does. So I think that's the difference in terms of vocabulary and terminology that we have here. A lot of people are just saying that they know the mech to like not wipe, and then when they go in, they just like air POV the entire fight because they get hit by everything.
Yeah, I think the vocabulary is still very vague. Unlike, KR has various phrases that indicate which no mech level are you, right? There's the level of there's the heading party where like you're expected to not know anything about the raid, which I think is like what Jay talked about. Like would be super exciting if there's 8 people that are willing to like spend hours in the dungeon and figuring out the raid by themselves. Seems like really exciting, but I doubt that many people have zero exposure to Valtan because there's so many people that watch streams and stuff. But it will be exciting to see those parties form, like a party that says, don't enter if you know mech, like you have to figure out the raid with us. Like that's a really exciting party that you sometimes see in Korea. But yeah, like I don't think the vocabulary is very defined yet in NA by knowing mech. But like looking forward to Valtan rolling in. It'll be nice to see people who are new to the raid get to learn the raid together, spend hours in the dungeon together and enjoy the process,
Yeah, I think that that's actually quite a funny. It's actually a problem that I have with NA is that we don't have any granularity in terms of experience that people post. So like Jen said, I mean, we don't have to copy KR, but in Korea, there's very defined tags for how good you are or how experienced you are with a certain raid. But in NA, literally all I've seen is either learning party or no mech. There's no in between. So it's like it's very hard to define where am I supposed to go. So I think that's part of the problem of pugging right now is that you'll go into a party and either you'll be way over experienced or you're under experienced because like people say they know mech but they don't know mech, or like you think you know the mech but you actually don't know the mech, right? So I don't know. Do you think we need to nail down some guidelines or post it on Reddit or something, or you think it's just something people will figure out over time?
I personally think that it would be nice if people had indication of clearing alive, because that's a big standard that Koreans use. Like, have you cleared the raid at all? Like, or have you cleared alive like throughout the raid? I think that would be a pretty clear standard. I think bringing in the details that Korea has right now will be too much for NA, I think. But I don't think it would actually have an impact if we try to like post it on Reddit. Like, for example, the ×3 is not even working, like it seems like people are going NESW or something. If you cleared a raid alive, I think that's a really big like pat on your back. Like you really did a good job, especially if it's a Legion raid and you cleared both phases alive. You could post that next week and be a Legion raid lead and say like only join if you cleared alive. It's a pretty good indicator of you being experienced, I think.
Yeah, like Tulce was saying earlier, if you get to Valtan, the last phase of Valtan, and you're alive, that's an absolute win. So like so I guess we didn't talk about this, but in Valtan there's no reses. If you die, you're dead. And so by what we talking about by clearing alive is that when you clear the raid, you're actually not dead, because you can be dead and people will clear it and carry you through it. So I remember when I was learning Valtan, like the first few times I did Valtan, when we killed the boss, I was dead every time. It wasn't until my 3rd or 4th clear plus that I actually was like one of the livers at the end. And so that's actually a really big accomplishment, is clearing Valtan and being alive.
Yeah, I got knocked off every single round for multiple clears. So definitely something to get used to and be proud of if you can get there fairly quickly.
Just as a disclaimer, I'm comparatively new among these people, so if I die, please don't flame me. I'm not as experienced as these guys. Even I might die these people, all these people, so if I die in one of your prog parties, please don't like refer to this podcast and like blame me for it. I'm putting it out there. I'm as inexperienced as others.
Yo, edit this out.
in
Edit
the
this out.
server.
Edit this
It's
out.
up. Yep. Don't be using it. Yep.
You're also the only non-streamer.
I'm not
That's
a
true.
streamer.
Yeah.
Sure, Tulce is a meme.
I'm just a
streamer.
screen sharer,
Discord famous
You're
Discord streamer.
underselling yourself, man.
dude.
Overall, I think it's gonna be a good patch though. Like, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. Actually, now that we kind of talked about everything and zoom out, there's actually a ton of shit in this patch.
Dude, I just want to farm Deskaluda for the rest of my life.
Same.
I want to go into Valtan prog parties. You want to matchmake Valtan together?
No.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm down.
Eternal
It's free
suffering.
content, dude.
I
Sadness and
know.
sorrow.
I've already gone through my content cycle there.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
No, both of you
Yeah.
guys have to be on supports.
No, I don't have a support.
You have to make one, and then you have to matchmake on a support.
Just go
Yeah, so you
support.
can't carry.
Just bring your Batman build.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, my Batman build. Holy.
Just be a battle item user.
Yeah, like they're gonna be like NESW, right? We might encounter the rare news.
Oh,
Bro,
oh my
you
god!
can't-
How do you can't do that
You
in
can't even do that in
Valtan?
Valtan. Yeah, you can't do that in Valtan.
Well, there's also no times 3 in Valtan.
Yeah, you have to actually just like stand in a position.
Yeah.
What if you get
I
a
don't know
guy?
why, but-
What if your matchmate dude, the player one guy, doesn't know how to use Esther?
Oh yeah, when
that's
you
likely.
matchmake, who gets lead? Is it random?
Rando, yeah.
Random, I think. Yeah.
Nah, before you start the wolf fight, be like, yo, pass me
Pass me
Raid
lead.
Leader.
Yeah.
Pass me lead.
Do
You know what? You
how
know
to
what's
throw
gonna
a
happen?
spell?
You're gonna be like, pass me lead, and then the person's gonna be like, how?
yeah.
Dude,
Oh,
how are
no.
people even gonna set up for wolf phase? They're gonna be like, all right, I'll be north, northeast, west.
Yeah, they're just gonna use every
Southwest.
directional unit. Yeah.
I don't know. People will probably watch a video, right?
Yeah.
Is there
That's
any?
Yeah, guys, I'll be top left.
It can't be
Oh.
worse than Russia, right? At least
That
people
look-
speak English.
Look,
I guess.
I don't think
I have faith. I have faith. Any players can do
it's a
it.
coin toss.
I think any players will be able
I
to.
think they can.
At least we don't have like as huge of a language barrier as like RU, because RU was like Russian, Chinese, and English. So
Yeah.
it's like really, really bad.
I mean, what about you? What about EU, dude?
Yeah, well, okay, like you, God bless your souls, like over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, you guys got like way too many languages going on.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, most people in
exactly.
EU speak like some degree of English, like at least that. Or I guess it's confirmation bias because everyone I've met speaks English, but
Yeah, I think. Well, I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be a huge problem if they're not matchmaking, right? So,
Yeah.
like, if they're in
Yeah.
Party Finder, I think I'm kind of ignorant about this, but I hope they kind of figure out which servers belong to specific like languages, right? So, if you're in Party Finder and you see like specific languages, I guess you just don't invite unless they say that they know English, or you like invite them and you're like, hey. They say something like, "Hey, I actually know English." Right? And you just-
link me your TOEFL score, bro. Because I remember in
So we-
Russia, we every time someone joined, we'd be like, "Hey, do you speak English?" And then if they replied and their English was sus, we would just say look at each other, but yo, no, not this guy.
Yeah, that was for our deja vu. Our only option was speak English.
Yeah, we didn't even care if they. I remember at some point we would invite pugs, and we would say, "I don't care if you know the fight. We can teach you the fight. Do you
Yeah,
speak
yeah.
English?"
Yeah, that's what we did. I remember.
And we taught so many people deja vu in Russia. I remember. So brother Shaza, as long as they speak English, I think it'll be okay. But I don't know if this is bias or anything, but a lot of people that I've seen in like NA matchmaking are really stubborn. Like they don't want to. They you can't teach them anything. They don't want to learn.
No, I've gone through the exact
Yeah.
same thing, 100%.
Is that like an NA special or what?
I mean, I tried teaching ×3 and they wouldn't do it.
I think it's the ×3, bro. Other than that,
Yeah, they literally just don't want to do it. I don't know why. They just don't want to multiply two numbers together for some reason.
quick maths.
Yeah, they just don't want to do it. They're like, I did math in school. I don't want to do it in Lost Ark. Like I have no idea.
I guess we'll see. But I think a lot of people always say Valtan is when the game actually starts. So I think Valtan is gonna wake a lot of people up that think that Lost Ark is easy. Because while Valtan is in itself not a challenging fight, it forces you to learn certain mechanics. Like if you don't know how to use destruction, you're not clearing Valtan. If you don't know how to stand in a specific position for a specific mechanic, you're not clearing Valtan. So I think I'm looking forward, I guess, to seeing how much the community in general, how much the player base in general improves in terms of skill. Because right now, if you matchmake, it's a shit show, man. Like people honestly, the average skill level is really low, and not to be toxic, because it's just like the game's too new and they haven't been forced to learn any of the mechanics yet. But Valtan is like the beginning of, if you don't learn this mechanic, you will literally never clear this boss, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
I hope so, because I've honestly seen better item use like as we reach Yoho and Egrexion. Like I've seen better people using items as they should have, and people are getting better. And Valtan, everyone knows it's like the first exciting fight, and I doubt that people will be more stingy on Valtan than they are in Yoho. I think people will be more willing to like spend their resources and time into it, so it's gonna be exciting. I'm more towards the optimist side of this. Like I think NA is doing great. Like I know there's a lot of disappointing matchmaking experiences, but I've seen a lot of improvements in the past few weeks as well.
I can agree with that. Also, I've bought 1,500 destruction bombs, so I'm really hoping that people throw them so the price goes up. That's some stonks, man.
Yeah, it's the round 2 of the spirit potion that you bought.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for hell mode with that.
I think people are gonna finally realize that item level will not save you from Valtan, no matter how high above you are.
You just get hit.
If you do not understand mechanics in Valtan, you will die no matter what item level you are. And this raid will teach you that. So I think that's a big wake up call for people who think that they can overgear everything in the game.
And looking forward to all the gun lancers that are gonna get grabbed in Ghost Phase.
Gun lancers, destroyers, since they're coming out as well. Destroyers whenever they get there.
I'm looking forward to the laser show. Both those classes create.
No!
In phase 1, yep, definitely.
All these,
I guess
getting one shot by lasers. Like, how did I die?
You won't get one shot because nobody has grudge. So
true. You're right.
You get 2 shot.
Yeah, 2 lasers from your destroyer and your gun lancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a gunslinger and you die to that, and if you have grudge, you'll be like, it's because you had grudge that you died.
Yeah.
Stop the grudge hate. I guess we can wrap up and, self-promote and all that. Closing thoughts. I will start while you guys think about what you want to say. Overall, I'm looking forward to the patch. Like I said, I think the new content is always exciting and a lot of QoLs coming. There's nothing really bad about it. There's some aspects that might be iffy, like the guild PvP stuff, but overall I think for most of the player base it'll be a really enjoyable patch, and I'm looking forward to watching people get destroyed by Valtan. And this is going to be on my YouTube, so you probably already know who I am, but you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/ielol, and also youtube.com/ielol. And I guess I'll pass it off to Shandamon or Shandamon.
Yeah, you can catch me at twitch.tv/Shandamon or youtube.com/Shandamon. I stream DGen hours, evening time, nighttime, and I suffer in matchmaking.
You can follow or catch me at JSparks on YouTube or J_Sparks on Twitch. I've been really lazy with both streaming and YouTube, but I think with all the exciting content coming out, it'll motivate me again to start pushing out guides and more fun content on Twitch eventually. Hope to see everyone again.
What about the pillar of our community?
Honestly, I do stream, but I don't recommend you guys to just come watch. Like, if you need help, if you want groups and you're playing on an NA East and you want friends to play video games with and you're actually serious about learning raids, just join the Monster Discord at discord.gg/monsterlfg. Like, all of us are here. We're all extremely friendly. We love playing the game. We're probably just as sweaty or inspired to play the game as you are. passionate, whatnot, whatever, just come to the Discord, say hi, and then tell me, like, just DM me personally and say, like, hey, I want a Valtan group, I want to learn, and I want to have some fun. As long as you're on NA East, you can come and play with us. There's no problem there. But yeah, just enjoy the game.
Oh, I don't stream. But please, if you do join the Monster Discord channel, go under resources and information. There's a lot of stuff up there. You might be asking a question that's already been answered in detail. So I'll promote my work like this. Thanks.
Yeah, Jin doesn't stream, but she's a professional guide writer for
I'm a translator.
She also
Yeah.
translates.
That was episode 1. We still don't have a name for this. If you have a good name for it, maybe leave it in the comments. And starting next episode, we'll have like viewer questions in the closing. So I don't know if we'll actually get enough questions, but if you have questions for us, leave them in the comments. Go check out everyone's Twitch/YouTube, and if you're NA East, especially if you're a support, join the Discord, discord.gg/monsterlfg. Okay, bye. I don't have anything else to say. Do you guys have anything else to say?
You were supposed to say bye you.